a moment to silence your mobile devices. We would like to remind you that food and drink are not permitted in the theater. Also, please note that photography and audio and video recording is prohibited. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tom Calago of the New York Times, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to TimesTalks, our live conversation series pairing New York Times journalists with the brightest and boldest creative minds in film, theater, music, science, art, literature, and fashion. To find out who's coming next, subscribe to our newsletter at TimesTalks.com. Tonight, we're thrilled to welcome Bill Murray, Jan Vogler, Mira Wang, and Vanessa Perez for a conversation moderated by New York Times culture reporter Milena Rysick and a sneak peek performance of repertoire from the forthcoming recording New Worlds, coming in September on Decca Gold. Now, please join me in giving a very warm welcome to our moderator, Milena Rysick, and our very special guests, Bill Murray, Jan Vogler, Mira Wang, and Vanessa Perez.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I am so excited to be here with Bill, Jan, Mira, and Vanessa. And we are hopefully going to have a little bit of time for some audience questions and certainly some time for performance, if we're lucky, right? You guys hear them warming up backstage?
Well, we got a late start. I don't think we're going to get to it.
So let's start with the beginning. You guys, Bill and Jan, had a sort of meet cute. This is an unexpected collaboration for the two of you. And I understand, Bill, you already don't think that you had a meet cute? You met on an airplane. Is that right?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. but I thought you said something about a low IQ. So, and then I thought it was EQ, and then I don't know what's happening.
Tell me how you met.
Participation. What did she say?
Tell me how you met.
What's that?
Tell me how you met.
It was like the Newlywed Game or something. It's good. We met on an airplane. Was it Air Berlin? Is that what it was?
No, I think United.
United? We went on United. We were going to Newark, weren't we?
Yes.
Yes, we were going to Newark from Berlin.
Yes.
And I see this guy, and he's walking carrying, this funny-looking suitcase, and I think to myself, I better help him out. He probably isn't like a frequent traveler. So I said, are you going to be able to fit that thing in the overhead compartment? And he looked at me like I was, really, damaged goods and said, it has its own seat. His suitcase was in the same class of service as I. And so not only is it in first class, his suitcase, but his suitcase gets the window. So that's sort of how we met. That was first impressions are so important.
But you struck up a conversation. Now, Jan, do you normally, when you're traveling somewhere, talk to your seatmate?
No, but we talked kind of before already, boarding the plane. I think going through security, you were already wondering if it fits through the scanner.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to fit through the scanner. And then I thought, well, he's really pushing it with the overhead.
Yeah, exactly.
But
then I wanted to know if any of his movies was on the program, and he went through quickly and could tell me very quickly. And then I watched his film, and then we had some very nice conversation about music, actually. And I figured out that he knows a lot about music, a lot of melodies.
Yeah, you told me before that you think Bill knows more about music than you do, in some respects.
In general, yes. I think I'm one of those classical musicians, don't know that much popular music and not that many tunes, but I'm learning now. So So I think Bill knows a lot of melodies.
I think most of us feel that we know more about music than a classical cellist, don't
But is it true that you can whistle any tune? That's what Jan said, any melody?
Well, it's not like name that tune, but I'm a pretty good whistler, yeah. I'm pretty good. I did a lot of hitchhiking, and you've got to amuse yourself out there.
So how did you progress from that airplane moment to deciding to put together an album and a performance series?
Well, actually, we had a panicky woman in the airplane, and that was where the fun began, really. Because, you can't make a wrong move with someone that's having like a panic hysteria on a plane, unless you strangle that person to death. You can't do it any worse than they're already doing, right? So, because Jan turns out to be a guy who has a lot of frequent flyer miles, he had pretty much every vitamin and additive known to man on his body. And it was able to sedate this woman to such a degree that she performed for the entire plane, really.
Is this
several
true?
dances.
Yes, it's true.
Several. And but we did calm her down, and the crew was very happy with this. So, it's kind of too bad we were already in first class because they gave us all we wanted to drink, just for calming the person down. But then. Then after that, I was still working on this job, Monuments Men in Germany, and Jan said, well, I've got this gig. You girls awake? You still with us? It's boring. It's like the guys with the talking. We did, so Jan was doing a concert in Dresden. He invited me to see a concert, what would you call it? A symphony written for orchestra and factory parts. And it was performed in the Volkswagen factory in Dresden, which is a completely ridiculous, a stunning place that's humans and robots working together as friends, and beautiful oak floors that don't have a drop of oil on them, perfectly clean and sanitary. You could eat off it. So we wandered around there, and the orchestra was this great. Was it the New York?
New York Philharmonic.
Yeah. Okay, they're okay. And so the New York Philharmonic, Joshua Bell, Jan Vogler, and Volkswagen fenders, steering wheels, horns, and all these kinds of other things that they clanged together whenever the moment was right. And it was breathtaking, really, to watch. And it was done in front of maybe a 15, 20-story tower, glass tower of automobiles. That was the end of the production line, and at the climax, really, of the symphony, a car entered, turned on its lights, and turned them off, and it was a completed automobile that had been completed while we were doing the show. It was, you don't see that one coming, So then it kept going. You've heard this story before. But then, I called Jan and said, one day in New York, I said, can you make it down to the Brooklyn Bridge at 5:30? And the guy's, he's German, so he'll fall for anything. And East Berlin, too, So he showed up at 5:30, and it was this thing that's done by the Poets House every year at the Brooklyn Bridge, where they do a poetry walk, and they walk across the Brooklyn Bridge. And they read poems at the foot of the bridge. They read poems atop the bridge, on the other side of the bridge. Then they go to dinner, and they read more poems, and then you get to walk home with a very heavy bag of a mixed collection of poetry. That's not a good joke. But so he came to that, and then a couple days later said, we could do a show. We could go places and do a show. You could talk, and I could play. And then the next thing you knew, it was like, you got the cute girls, and then now we're rolling. It turns out, it turns out the band got formed in the back of his van, and he had his beautiful wife, Mira, and the lovely Vanessa Perez from Venezuela, who did a tango album with Jan a few years ago. I don't know if any of you have heard that record, but it's a stunning record.
But you formed the band, in a way, Jan, before you had an idea of what the act would be. Is that right?
Well, I have a festival in Dresden, and I asked Bill, I said, can we plan, that was June 2016, can we plan to do this in June 17 in Dresden? But the problem was we had to print it in July 16. So he said, yeah, I think we can do that. That was kind of what you said, and then we printed it and said, you know, music and texts by American composers such as, and authors such as, and then we met in September, actually, and started working on the program. And we had the trust somehow that something would come out of our friendship.
As you guys got to know each other, and clearly you have some common palette for writers and musicians, but do you also feel like you have the same sort of approach to creativity? And Mira and Vanessa, please join in.
Yeah, they can probably judge better than us.
I mean, I feel from the beginning has been very natural. I've worked with Jan in the first time in 2008, and it's been his commitment to making an amazing project, music. It's been always very exciting. And now a few years later, when he told me about whether I wanted to join him to work with Bill Murray.
Did you think, what?
I'm like, yeah. We were at a party at his home, and he's like, I'm going to be working with Bill Murray. Would you like to maybe consider doing this? And I'm like, yeah. Yes. And but from the first meeting, I think everything was so natural. Bill is such a natural musician. I mean, all the elements of mood, timing, atmosphere, feeling, everything was there. It's really a team. We're creating this together.
We took a walk first, and that was really, really fun. Vanessa didn't have the right shoes. She had high heel shoes. She was the only one walking in Palisades Park. I remember she was a little bit in trouble walking, but we had a great time just walking first for 2 hours before we started actually talking about what music and literature to choose. And I felt we were a good group, just what Vanessa said. We had a good chemistry in the group, different characters, and I guess it's a little bit like a film. You need a good cast first before you can start working, I think.
I couldn't agree. I agree with you. You want to say something? So it's really great working with these four. I'm obviously being dragged along, you know? And it's really fun. You know, you don't have to be that good to look good with them. You know what I mean? So it's really great for me. But they play so much. It's so much fun. You'll see it. We're probably not going to play for you tonight, but sometime, because we got a Carnegie Hall gig coming, and why blow it here? I mean, 41st Street, really? But we're having the time of our lives, and it's just fun to travel together. These guys are like professional travelers, you know. They just go, and there's no, you know, oh, I forgot a bottle of water in my, you know, there's none of that stuff. People just move. We just go through, and people are really enjoying. Until tonight, everyone's really enjoyed what we've done. This is it. But Mira, tell us a little bit about it. But it's kind of interesting why we call it. I'm going to keep talking because we don't really want to play. So we call it New Worlds. I don't know why. Jan's really done all the work, and the girls do all the work, and Stephen Buck, who does all the arrangements, they do all the work. I'm in charge of getting us across the streets at the lights. That's it. But we're having so much fun doing this, and it's an unusual show to be in, like the Dresden Music Festival and these places where they don't see just kind of a mixture of different kinds of musical styles. But Jan's from Europe, and Vanessa's from South America, Mira's from China, Asia, and I'm from North America. And so it has this kind of funny thing where we come together. This new world is sort of this, what was that crazy island in the middle? What did Donovan's song, what was it? Huh? Atlantis, thank you. We sort of like at this Atlantis thing where this music comes together.
We knit fishtails.
And we have dovetailed or fishtailed, as they say in China, into some sort of musical thing that works together. But it's beautiful to have these communists working. I mean, an East Berliner, a Venezuelan, a Chinese. I'm really trying to help them out. You know? we're trying to make America an immigrant country again.
But this is a sort of experimental collaboration. There's some risk to it. Is that part of the appeal for any of you?
Well, I don't know. It felt rather safe because these great authors, they are much bigger than us. You know, they have Mark Twain has written Huckleberry Finn, I think, in the 80s of the 19th century, and has written really revolutionary things in his book. And reading from it and playing music with it elevates all of us, I think. So it felt the works we are performing are so incredibly great that I think it's not that we feel unsafe. It's more like they are going to stand there and tell the message, and we are trying to play the music well. And Bill reads incredibly well and sings incredibly well. So I think it's rather a nice and loose atmosphere when we work, and we find new things, and we constantly text. Bill texts me new songs, and we talk about new additions. So it's really fun.
Bill, do you think that this is a safe bet?
It's. I just thought for myself it was. I don't. The opportunity to work with this kind of talent doesn't. You just don't get this. This is ridiculous. This is a real grace for me. To receive it, and the way we work, and the way that we can just look at each other and know what's supposed to happen, and we come to the same conclusions at the same time about how we want to do things, the order in which we want to do things, the way we want to impact certain songs and so forth. It's great. I really have always been a collaborator. I came from the Second City. I worked at Saturday Night Live. I work in the movies where you collaborate with hundreds of people at a time. So to get it down to like a small number like 4 is kind of sweet, really, And to have them be like world-class players is you feel pretty much like, the Rolling Stones or something like that. Sometimes they, one of them could have a bad night, have a cold, or maybe have had a drink before the show, and they still manage to turn it up. They still manage to play great, and that's sort of like how it is with us. One of us can have trouble with a zipper, or where's my makeup, or something like that. But we go along pretty well, and it's really joyous. It's really, it's a horrible word, joy, because it's always, nobody really gets it, really. No one really gets it, and it's a foul word because we're all envious of the guy that knows what it means. But it feels like something like that up here when you do it right, when we do it right. We're not going to do it for you tonight, but it's going to happen. Maybe someone has a question. Let's have a question. Does anyone have a question? Because we're about ready to leave. Here's one right in front.
How many shows have you done or are going to do?
I'll repeat the question because we are live streaming, so people can't hear it if you're not mic'd. And this gentleman is asking, how many shows have you guys done?
Well, we did so far 4 shows, 2 in small circles with invitation only, which were in the last fall of 2016 in New York and Berlin. And those were really very much fun and just what Bill said. And then we worked on it and tweaked it and changed some things because we like to let things evolve all the time. And then we did 2 public shows now in Germany in early June, in Wolfsburg and Dresden. And in Dresden was rather a big venue, 1,800 people. And it really, we felt the message arrived and people really loved it. I think they enjoyed this mix of music and literature and songs, which is kind of, I'm in the music world for 35 years and I have not heard anything quite like it from the combination of art. So we enjoyed it, the audience enjoyed it. We still keep working and trying to improve it all the time.
Does anybody get nervous beforehand? Have stage fright?
Ask the girls,
Anything like
maybe.
that?
Are you getting nervous? Mira? Or?
I think the nervous is the wrong word by now, and I think we're all slightly anxious before we get on the stage. You kind of need that to kind of give yourself a little energy push. And we're not fainting, let's say.
Bill, you're nodding. Do you feel like you need a little anxiety to get on stage?
Well, I'm about to faint. But you have a little bit of a sort of a creative sweat, you know, kind of like just a thin layer of sweat. Like, okay, you're just ready for something. You're ready. You're ready. You're relaxed, but you're ready. Your heart beats a little faster. You get a little bit more alert, hopefully, and you feel that obligation. Like, you know, if you really believe you're sort of here to do something, you know, you feel like, I got to show up. Now I got to show up, right? So it can make you feel tense, but it's the breaking of that tension that gives you the good performance, the freedom to perform. So there's something that happens, you know, that's sort of the miracle of theater or the miracle of music, that there's quiet and then something happens. And it's that being confident in the quiet to understand it enough to speak or to perform and play something.
Was that something that drew any of you, that feeling, to performing in the first place, or is it something you discovered as you were getting into it?
I think in each team it's different. I have a lot of beautiful relationships in music, but I feel you put out your sensitivity or your empathy to your fellow performers, and you wait what they're going to give, and hopefully it's going to be different every night and not a stereotype you have studied at home. So it's as Bill has said, as Mira has said, as Vanessa has said, I think in this group there's a lot coming. There's a lot always happening, and we enjoy that, and I guess everything will be always a little different each time.
What drew you to the cello? Because you started playing very young.
Well, I come from a musician's family, and my father was a cellist and my mother a violinist, and so my brother learned the violin, my older brother. And I was a little chubby as a boy, so a little bit looked like a cellist. You know? so my parents said, he is the cellist. And I started playing, and although I was exactly like all the other boys, I wanted to play outdoors. Soccer was and kites, flying kites were my passions. And still, each time I was asked to play, I loved it. I wanted to, even my parents would wake me up sometimes at night, or I could come out, couldn't sleep, and they had guests, and I would just sit and play. I loved playing the cello, and it was, I think, somewhat the right instrument. And I think that love is still today exactly the same it was when I started at age 6, I think.
Ladies, do you have the same kind of story where you discovered your passion right away for your instruments?
Well, for me, my parents were doctors, so they've been retired for years, and they just wanted me to learn a skill. We're really practical. Chinese people are more practical, let's say. And my mom loves music, so she could never be a musician. So I guess I'm living her dreams now.
My mom played the piano, but she had a lot of stage fright, but she always played at home. So I just loved the way she played, and specifically the Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven. So I was 5, 4, and I'm like, I have to play that piece, I have to. So that's what drew me. Yeah.
And Bill, you've been musical since you were a kid too, right?
Yes. I was in a rock and roll band in high school called the Dutch Masters.
That I have not heard.
You did not know that? Well, back then it was important to have a cool-looking drum head on your band, on the front of your band, and back then we used to watch the Ernie Kovacs show, which was sponsored by Dutch Masters, and they always had these great things that would crack up, that would break down, and they were based on the paintings of the Dutch Masters, and I got my friend's sister to paint a Dutch Master on the floor tab. So that's why we were the Dutch Masters. We weren't Dutch, and we weren't masters, but we were pretty good. We were pretty good, and it was basically a cover band, and I was a singer. I could sing. That's what I did. And I sang in like, with like a kind of a folk group when I was in school, and I sang in a couple of things. I sang on Saturday Night Live. I did bad singing, and
Is it harder to do bad singing when you can't
you got to be pretty good to be a bad singer. Yeah, I mean, there's bad singers and there's guys that are doing bad singers. You got to be pretty good to do a bad singer. I'm proud of that. My bad singing's right up there. I was proud of that work. It wasn't easy. But I had a little fun in the last couple of years. We did a music special a couple of years ago, a Christmas show at the Carlisle Hotel, and I ended up singing a lot of songs and singing with really great musicians. And I sang in the Jungle Book with the New Orleans musicians, and I thought, heck, I can actually kind of do this. And then so when we started doing this, it was originally supposed to be reading, just reading, and then Jan showed up with songs, and I thought, well, let's go.
I saw the Jungle Book. That was actually the trigger, because we went with our kids to see Jungle Book, and we heard Bill sing and said, oh, that's actually the key to this program, because sometimes it's very limited. If the actor reads and the musicians play, of course you can overlap a little, but I think the charm here is really that we can switch from reading, singing, playing, and everything can become one thing. And I thought the Jungle Book was really fabulous, the singing. So my kids loved it.
Does anyone want to hear them sing and play?
Still tickets on sale at Carnegie Hall. Not very many either. It's pretty nice. So it's only about 15 or 20. So raise hands if you want those tickets. Well, maybe we should. Let's have one more question. Come on. I don't feel like you people have worked at all. Come on. You got to give a little back. What about this fellow with his hands together? You, right there. What's on your mind?
What made you decide to go to music as an alternative to being in the cinema?
Well, the cinema is perfect, and I always say this, but it's perfect for me because like a take in a movie takes about 90 seconds. That is my attention span. Did I say minutes? I meant seconds, 90 seconds. But it's just something, I've always loved to sing, and there's someone said something beautiful about singing recently, that it's just different. How often do we find ourselves walking down the street or even in our own car singing? Something different has happened. Something different really happens when you sing. It's not like talking or even telling a joke, or very different than watching other people or watching television or even listening. When you sing, it's really, you are expressing yourself. It is a representation of yourself. So I guess that's what I like about it. I haven't given up movies. It's just it's so appealing, and it's so, I don't know, it's real pure in a way to say, well, you're either going to be good or you're not. But the music, there's such a net around you, such a safety, and I've got like these killers on the stage here, and we're playing great music, great composers and great lyricists and great musicians. I promise you, any one of you could come up here and do this thing. It's just that I got a nice jacket on and I'm ready. It's really something to do, and I encourage you to sing along with us. I mean it. We're gonna go and we're gonna take names. We're gonna find out who's not singing. And did you see the security guys all dressed in black? Bad guys. They're actually from the Post. They're from the New York Post. So you're going to have to sing. Why don't you play something? You're kind of like, who came the farthest?
We can play something together first.
Yeah, why don't you guys play for a while, and I'll go sit over there.
Okay.
You got it.
Play something.
So we play
One more thing?
We're going to play a short tango, since Vanessa is such a tango expert. So we're going to play Muerte del Ángel by Astor Piazzolla.
Those of you on the aisles, just step right up. See? You can do this. It's not hard. It's not hard. Isn't that hilarious? I think we should introduce the handsome stallion oak over there in the corner. Mr. Stephen Bucky over there somewhere?
He is gone.
There he is.
He's an extraordinarily valuable page turner because he also happens to do all the arrangements, and he is the stallion oak of Ms. Vanessa Perez as well. So he's got his hands full. You have another question?
I have a question, or do you want to go to the audience questions?
Yeah, let's hear another.
Okay.
You got a good left-hander.
We got our mics. Let's do it.
I'm just curious. Hi, Bill. What influence you felt you brought to the music, working with such talented musicians?
Well, that's probably a better question for there wasn't much left for it to do, but I don't know. I think
Timing, I think. I think timing, I think, is for classical music as much as for jazz, I find the key thing, how you time your music. And Bill has a great timing. He changed our timing in a way, and you might hear that tonight at some point. so I think the timing really incredible to be in the moment. I think and also a lot of suggestions came. I mean, now the songs, most songs we play, the suggestions come from Bill actually. Yeah.
And Bill, what have you learned about working with these guys who are typically by reputation fairly exacting and studious, and that probably is not your reputation? If I can say that.
I didn't, it was an insult. I didn't hear it. But I know you're laughing at me and not with me, so it's okay, I can dish it out too. I learned that it's really not that important to be on time. In a group like this, you need a squeaky wheel. You need a squeaky wheel. And they just provide more and more grease. So it's great. They're limitless. They're they're like a Kuwaiti oil well. They really go and go. But I'm sure you had a question behind that meanness. But whatever I learned from these fellas and ladies, I mean, I think I learned that they're not afraid of anything. They're absolutely fearless. They're just not afraid of anything. You say, you want to try something? Like, yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's try it. They're not afraid to try anything. So you just feel completely game. You feel like it's always exciting. It's always a pleasure to it's that every time you do it, it's different. It's brand new. That's how I always like to work in movies. I never understood people that gave the same performance every take. I was like, why did you come the second take? We had you. It wasn't as much fun. These guys, every time is different. Every time is fun and exciting and eye-opening. Mm-hmm.
You have such a dynamic group, and all of your backgrounds seem quite different. Have you thought about documenting this experience? You're taking this on the road. What about a video camera along the way?
See, this is what I end up talking.
He's in the movies business.
You say, what am I bringing to the party? They refuse to answer questions because they've been interrogated at the borders so many times. Say nothing. So yeah, we're going to document. We actually made a record, believe it or not, which if we were really smart, we'd sell you for $800 right now. But because we do these shows, it turns out we've got a tour that we're going to do. We're doing, you pardon the expression, California, and then we're going to play Chicago, Toronto, and New York. But we put together this. We did this show in the Yacht Club here in New York, and if you've never been inside the New York Yacht Club, you should really sneak in until they kick you out, because it is stunning. I've lived here a long time, and I'd never been in it. It's a beautiful room. We played a show there, and after we did the show, all of a sudden, people started calling Jan saying, "Come over to our house and play in our place." So we've made a record with our man Adam, recorded here at the Baryshnikov Art Center over on West 37th Street, and just so we could have some merch. Just so, you could be like that singer-songwriter that's got his disc in the trunk. I've got some in the trunk, so we're going to have them in the, I guess that's what they do in the classical business. I didn't know that. They sell things. So we're going to do that. There'll be a record that's already made, and it'll be coming out in, I don't know how long.
September, I think.
September or something. So there'll be that kind of documentation. We did videotape the show that we did, the first one we did in Berlin, just to have a record of it. And it was very instructive because I realized, for me anyway, because I realized how much I had to improve to do, I'm not kidding, to do the second show. I mean, it felt really good, but when I saw it, I went, oh, now I know what's expected of me. So it was great for me to see it. not for the others, but but to document it, it's the fun is the live performance. Really, it's really fun, and I'm sorry we're not going to play any more for you tonight.
Do we want to hear him sing?
No, wait for that. Let's do something.
Maybe read.
It's a little early for singing, and as because it's the Times and not the other papers, it's coffee and ice water out in the dressing room. Terrible.
What do you want to do? Something reading, something?
Yeah, let's do something. We're playing it very loose with you folks because we see what state you're in, and we don't want to rail you. Is there one more question before we figure out what we're going to do next? Yeah, what's up?
How do you think this would have turned out if the guy was playing carrying a banjo?
A banjo? Well,
They just have to be bigger in size.
yeah. There's that one great girl who plays the banjo. What's her name? Plays a big long thing that's like a banjo. You know what I mean? She has a name like. Huh? She's good. I'm so terrible on names, and she's really great. And I saw her at someone help me. I saw her in New Orleans, and you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, she's got a voice like a fire alarm. It's amazing. It's really, and it's a true alarm. It's a human alarm. It's in a beautiful way, because it really is a wake up. What she does, and she plays a big instrument like a banjo, longer than a banjo, and she beats the hell out of it. And it's amazing. Who am I thinking of? Help me, somebody. Do you know what I mean? Anybody? Who? Yeah, say it louder, will you?
Rhiannon Gibbons?
She should be here tonight instead of us. Rhiannon Gibbons, she played in Washington, and she rips the world apart. She's really something. Anyway, if it were Rhiannon, it's not Steve, but that girl, I would have followed through a baggage claim.
Do we do this? Or?
You want to do this? Yeah, why not?
Why not?
Okay, we're going to ease into this.
Shall we see what it is? Or?
Okay, yeah. This is, we'll try something a little different where we play and we read at the same time. I'm going to read something by James Fenimore Cooper, and the guys are going to play something by Schubert. An exclamation of surprise broke from the lips of Deerslayer. An exclamation that was low and guardedly made, however, for his habits were much more thoughtful and regulated than those of the reckless Harry. When on reaching the margin of the lake, he beheld the view that unexpectedly met his gaze. It was, in truth, sufficiently striking to merit a brief description. On a level with the point lay a broad sheet of water, so placid and limpid that it resembled a bed of the pure mountain atmosphere compressed into a setting of hills and woods. Its length was about 3 leagues, while its breadth was irregular, expanding to half a league or even more, opposite to the point, and contracting to less than half that distance, more to the southward. Of course, its margin was irregular, being indented by bays and broken by many projecting low points. At its northern or nearest end, it was bounded by an isolated mountain, lower land falling off east and west, gracefully relieving the sweep of the outline. Still, the character of the country was mountainous, high hills or low mountains rising abruptly from the water on quite 9/10 of its circuit. The exceptions indeed only served a little to vary the scene, and even beyond the parts of the shore that were comparatively low, the background was high, though more distant. But the most striking peculiarities of this scene were its solemn solitude and sweet repose. On all sides, wherever the eye turned, nothing met it but the mirror-like surface of the lake, the placid void of heaven, and the dense setting of wood. So rich and fleecy were the outlines of the forest that scarce an opening could be seen. The whole visible earth, from the rounded mountaintop to the water's edge, presenting one unvaried hue of unbroken verdure. As if vegetation were not satisfied with a triumph so complete, the trees overhung the lake itself, shooting out towards the light, and there were miles along its eastern shore where a boat might have pulled beneath the branches of dark, Rembrandt-looking hemlocks, quivering aspens, and melancholy pines. In a word, the hand of man had never yet defaced or deformed any part of this native scene, which lay bathed in the sunlight, a glorious picture of affluent forest grandeur, softened by the balminess of June, and relieved by the beautiful variety afforded by the presence of so broad an expanse of water. This is grand. 'Tis solemn. 'Tis an education of itself to look upon, exclaimed Deerslayer, as he stood leaning on his rifle and gazing to the right and left, north and south, above and beneath, in whichever direction his eye could wander. Not a tree disturbed, even by red-skinned hand, as I can discover, but everything left in the ordering of the Lord to live and die according to his own designs and laws. I just do as I'm told.
No. You can also do Gershwin.
Oh, no, yeah, you're right. I think you're right. Yeah, let's try it. That's what you want to do, right?
Okay.
That?
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
Woman.
I mean, we have to goof something up so we can rally. Yeah? How you holding up? You're getting off kind of easy. Don't you have more questions?
I do.
Mm-hmm. What's on your mind?
I want to hear what you're going to do next.
Oh, we're going to do it. Let's go. Maybe we'll just, huh? What? Oh, well, you thought that.
No,
so
I just...
why not? Let's do that. It'll be different. Why not? We don't know what we're doing up here. We're trying not to be stiff. That was a lot of talking anyway. Okay. Yeah. Woman is like a fresh spring, the sparkling water attracts your eye. You kneel there, see your reflection, drink till your bones crack and you're no longer dry. Then comes a new man, some thirsty traveler, and so you leave her without a sign. The woman is like a fresh spring, and man is only a passer-by. Then comes a new man, some thirsty traveler, and so you leave her without a sign. The woman is like a fresh spring, and man is only a passer-by. So that was Mikis Theodoricus from Zorba the Greek, that particular piece. Now we're going to play a little something by a cat by the name of Jascha Heifetz. Is that correct? Sort of. Kind of. Not exactly. It ain't necessarily so. It ain't necessarily so. The things that you're liable to read in your Bible ain't necessarily so. Now little David was small, but oh my. David was small, but oh my. He shot Goliath, who laid down and dieth. David was small, but oh my. Jonah, he lived in a whale. Oh, Jonah, he lived in a whale. He made his home in that fish's abdomen. Jonah, he lived in a whale. Methuselah lived 900 years. Methuselah lived 900 years. But who call that living when no gal ain't given to no man what 900 years? Remember what I told you you'd have to sing? It ain't necessarily so. It ain't necessarily so. The things that you're liable to read in the Bible, it ain't necessarily so. Maybe one more time. What do you think? It ain't necessarily so. It ain't necessarily so. The things that you're liable to read in the Bible, it ain't necessarily so. You're good. You guys are good. That was really just a Yasha Heifetz arrangement. That was a fellow, a kind of a local guy, really, with George Gershwin, right? He was kind of a local. That's set down in Charleston. All right, so all right, should we do another one? All right, where is it? Okay, I found it. My job is to find where I'm supposed to be. All right, this is, do you want to announce this one, mister?
So we play The Swan by Saint-Saëns with a poem by Lucille Clifton, Blessing of the Boats.
May the tide that is entering even now the lip of our understanding carry you out beyond the face of fear. May you kiss the wind, then turn from it, certain that it will love your back. May you open your eyes to water, water, waving forever. And may you, in your innocence, sail through this to that.
Thank you, guys. That was incredible. Worth the wait, right? So we'll do a couple more audience questions and we'll have some mics, but I'll start us off. So now that we have a little bit of a sense of how this how it comes together, tell me, Bill, when you read a passage or when you read a poem, do you think this should be set to music? Is that how you feel now, or have you always felt that way?
Well, I think I've had a revelation about poetry through the Poets House and doing these things with them. I think I probably, even though I wrote poetry when I was a little kid, I think that most people find poetry, and even I find a lot of poetry sort of hard. Even poets that write poetry don't read it as well as they write it. You know, it's odd to hear, and so it's fun to sing it. You know, it's fun to really voice it, to do something with it. And Jan started putting music behind these things and saying, why don't we just, I don't know if we were trying to be efficient or what, but it's like, why don't we just do some talking and play the music, and then we could serve, sandwiches, and then we'd be out of here. I don't know what we were trying to do, but it seemed to, it kind of works, the music and the words together. I mean, the Cooper and the Schubert is so beautiful, and that particular poem by Lucille Clifton is stunning, and it's with that music. It's a revelation. It's so beautiful. So I don't know what your question was, but I feel like I've answered several questions.
We have time for just a couple more questions from the audience, and I bet you guys have a couple. Do we have a mic over here? Go ahead.
That lady brought her own mic.
Actually, over here, Bill. It's over here. I actually had the pleasure of being at Soldier Field with you 2 years ago for all 3 shows. So I know how much that meant to you. Did you ever think about incorporating any of the Dead stuff? Like, because Althea would sound good to this. You could interpret it. I know how much of a Dead fan you are, like myself, but I mean, was that one of your top 10 shows you've seen?
I don't know if everyone's getting, we've got a deadhead moment here. Can you hear it? I'm not sure they can all hear you. We're talking about the final performance of the Grateful Dead was last year in Chicago at Soldier Field.
2 years
and
ago.
I'd seen the Grateful Dead. They were on Saturday Night Live, and I knew those guys, and they're something. And all the people that travel with them, it's quite an experience. But I'd forgotten what a joyous experience it was. There really were many more people than announced by the police inside that stadium. And the sense of freedom that the people had of dancing, there were people that were not capable of being embarrassed by their dancing. And it was dancing that ordinarily we'd go like, oh God, get everybody in here to see this. But there were 100,000 people dancing that way. They were just completely liberated and free. And there was, and I'd forgotten how wonderful that experience was. And they're playing actually tomorrow night in Wrigley Field again. So without some, but it's. Could we? I don't know. It's really wonderful to watch them play. I think what they do is they let people go. I mean, not to compare ourselves to the Dead, but you know, when you're playing it, when you get it going right, you unlock something. You really, you free. You know, we all sang that song a minute ago. You know that's the beauty of Gershwin and the beauty of the players and everything. But there's something that allows you to say, I am alive. I'm myself now, and this music is inside of me and rocking around inside of me. That's what their music did to people, and anything that does that, any kind of music, even the stuff we're playing, but anything that does that, should be celebrated. So I don't know. It's not out of the question that we'd end up with doing a Dead song. We've got some odd ones coming. We're not going to give away everything tonight because, like I say, the expensive tickets, 57. What is this girl with your own microphone?
Question? Yeah, hi. I was wondering what the process was. Do you pick the prose and then say what, text them and say, I think you need a Chopin under this piece of poetry, or how does it work? Do you pick the music and then say to Bill, what do you think we should put in here for the poetry? How does that work?
It's a bit like ping pong playing. You play a ball to the other side and say, we have this beautiful music, and then we maybe find poetry to match it, or the other way around, we have a beautiful poem, and then we were hanging out sometimes 2 a.m. or something. We all trying to think what could fit Breakfast at Tiffany's, an excerpt from Breakfast at Tiffany's, the love scene in the park in Central Park West. On Central Park West, I think. So, and then you really think sometimes this way, sometimes the other way, and question and answer a little bit, I think. And that's the beautiful thing. It's not we are looking for any combinations, or we start always somewhere, and then we're trying to match it. And either we are in love with a piece of literature or poem or a piece of music.
Do we have time for a couple more?
I think they've had enough. Don't you? Don't you think you've enough?
All right, we'll do our last 2 questions.
I have a question, and maybe Mr. Murray can answer this question last, but it's a question for all of you. Which would you prefer, Beethoven or Bob Dylan?
Beethoven or what?
Beethoven or Bob Dylan.
Beethoven or Bob Dylan?
Bob Dylan.
Oh, they both are masters. You can't compare.
Yeah, and to be Beethoven, I don't think it's a pleasure. He had a pretty torturous life. He created great music, but I don't want to have his life. Sorry. Bob Dylan, I don't know enough about his life, but I admire him greatly. I don't know about the girls. Maybe you know more about Bob Dylan? Or?
We're classical music nerds, so we know little.
That's why my whistling has helped them so much.
Sir, we have one more question over here, and then we'll get to you, okay? Thanks.
To bring it back to the beginning, what was the movie playing on the plane? When you first met?
Yeah, I'm about as bad with movies as I'm with pop music. So it was this film with the 2 men going to the army because they were kind of bored. And what is it called? What was it called?
2 members of our struggling working class trying to fit in, joining the United States Army.
It was absolutely hilarious. What's the title?
It's called Stripes.
So they came as friends. They're going to part as...
That's true.
Wait, this gentleman has a question and a nice hat, so let's hear from him. Oh, hey, he's handing you a microphone.
Can you grab that
Say
mic?
it into the microphone.
Well,
'cause
Steve
there's-
Allen was on, I used to be recording from the Hudson Theater, and he used to read lyrics for contemporary pop songs, rock and roll. And if this gentleman, Jan, plays something like Rostropovich, would play on the cello very nice and quiet, and Bill gets up seriously and just reads the lyrics to Tutti Frutti or Rudy by Little Richard, that would be hysterical. And very good. I'd like to hear you do that. I'd buy that CD all day long. What do I know? I like to sell tickets.
Yeah. So, you know, which is better, Shostakovich or the Dutch masters?
Beethoven or Bob Dylan?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, thank you all for joining us tonight. It's been a wonderful audience.